Hello there and welcome back to War Thunder. Today I want to present you my personal top 10 problems that I see in War Thunder Naval CBT. Everything is subject to change in the closed beta, but I, as a long-term player of War Thunder, I've seen things in War Thunder that lead me now to make this video in an attempt to get the most rough problems pointed out and hopefully addressed by Gaijin. Some things are obvious, some things are not. This is not meant as bashing Gaijin or just saying, look, it's very terrible, don't play it. I think it has a lot of potential. I just also want to give them positive criticism in not just naming the problems but also bringing up possible solutions. Many of those things are tightly interacting with each other, so actually separating them is not that easy. So I made a big attempt to just sit down and write them down. So there might be a lot more problems, more specific problems to certain ships or maps, and again I want to point out that this is in fact constructive criticism. So I think now we shall begin. Number 10 goes to map design and map size. And I think that is a very important part of War Thunder, because it is not that easy to actually balance a map. However, the great discrepancies between the maps and how they have to be played, and also how they really differ throughout the tiers, is significant in the play experience. So on African Gulf, for instance, in one extreme you can actually shoot from spawn to spawn with heavy machine cannons such as the 40mm Bofors. And that also leads to, for instance, having the spawns no cover on certain spawns, but other spawns are well protected. Then also there is no cover in, for instance, the capture points, to which I will come in a moment, and that leads to instant spawn camping from the capture point. In other news, if then somebody spawns in a very strong vessel in terms of firepower, he still can shoot the spawn contest or the capture point contesters from his spawn with spawn protection, whereas they just simply have no cover and no chance to retaliate in a certain time frame. That is really disturbing. The other end of the spectrum is the cruiser spawn, where there is actually no cover and there is also not enough time, to which will come at the very end of this list, to get even close sometimes to a capture zone and have influence on the outcome. So you might make all the kills, but you just can't have the influence that you need on the outcome of a game. And that is kind of also very irritating for me personally. Number 9 goes to the income and the stock grind. So the day that I now make this video, the message came out from Gaijin, or the news came out, that Gaijin are actually doubling the RP income. But I think that's not even close enough, because the income is that pathetic. And that is after I played some matches with a double ace gameplay with a premium account that I won, and numerous other games that just point into the same direction, including kill assists and capturing zones and all the action that you can imagine, shooting down planes and doing a lot of damage to enemy ships. So I think the income in terms of RP must be drastically increased, especially since the stock grind even for low battle rating vessels is absolutely ridiculous. It takes, for instance, 20 battles to get 4 upgrades on a battle rating 3.0 ship, and that is just absolutely stunning. And I'm talking here again about games where most of them I won, where most of them I killed a lot of enemy ships, and in also having a premium account. So that is absolutely insane. And that directly brings me to number 8. Because problem number 8 is the difference, the insane difference in the handling between a stock and an upgraded ship. I'm not just talking here about the various different ammo selection, to which I will come also in a moment. For instance, where certain ships just don't have the possibility to overcome a certain other enemy ship to have a certain playstyle and punish them because of another reason that I will point out in a moment, but especially the toolset and the fire protection system requiring that many RP, again for a low tier battle rating vessel, is absolutely insane and discouraging and makes no fun at all. It is not a good implementation in the current state, absolutely destroying any sort of will for me to play certain ships that are stock. Also, the sheer difference in mobility and maneuverability for the ships in terms of acceleration speed and the tightness of the turn with the rudder upgrade and all those things are very, very big. The differences are too big, way too big to justify it being like that. Number 7 is a direct favorite of my criticism, and that is the aiming system. Now, it's not all bad for the aiming system, and the bigger the ships get, for instance big destroyers with long range capable guns, and in particular the light cruisers, you really feel that the aiming system actually supports you, actually is helpful. However, in close quarters there must be the option to have direct fire control. Furthermore, it is very, very disappointing that for patrol boats you need to range find, and then actually you very often can't properly lock on a target of your, well, prioritization, and it takes too long for the guns to arrange for it, despite the icon of the aiming indicator being direct on target. And then to manually, well, range find in close quarters where the distances are just 50 to 100 meters is absolutely disturbing and should not be. And then it is also very, very disturbing that it is maybe possible with the secondaries but not with the main armament, despite the main armament being also a machine cannon. Number 6 has to do with the firing order of the guns, and that is very, very interesting because it ranges to both extremes of the spectrum. On one end of the spectrum we have big ships such as destroyers and light cruisers, where in particular in close quarters you cannot make a ranging shot, which sounds absurd, but you need to know where the shell exactly travels according to your momentum of the ship, which is not always that obvious. And so you cannot fire a single gun. All guns that can fire in that one direction will fire. In particular, the reload of the main guns then is very often a problem, and so you can't do ripple fire, which is very, very bad. On the other spectrum, or on the other end of the spectrum, we have the extreme that on certain patrol boats you can fire all your main armament because it is unified. For instance, the German VS-10, which has 6 15mm machine cannons or heavy machine guns. But a lot of the American designs feature various different armaments ranging from 40, 37 and 20mm down to 50 caliber machine cannons and guns on a single ship. And then you have to decide yourself which kind of armament you take. And that is especially in close quarters where you have all the guns on your ship and you just can fire with some of them at the enemy, where you just have the wrong selected for the firing angle or they get damaged in fight. That is highly, highly frustrating. Number 5 has to do with the autogunners, both on big ships and small patrol boats. First of all, they have various different fire modes where you can select them or you can toggle them, but overall there are some deeply concerning errors in their programming. In the start they are just shooting somewhere wildly with no target selected, wasting ammunition and threatening to overheat the guns. Then in the next moment they are just shooting through islands with no targets visible, but where the AI gunners have locked on a patrol boat on the other side of the island, giving you as an experienced player practically a wall hack, making an ambush for a destroyer by a patrol boat impossible. And that is very, very punishing because maybe that patrol boat wants to defend the patrol boat capture zones from the destroyers. Then Also, a lot of the gunners are actually overheating the guns constantly, and that is very punishing if the reload or the cooldown phase on those weapon systems are punishing. For instance, on the S100 1944, if you switch to the 20mm because better firing angles, or you just want to overcome the reload of the 30mm, then the autogunner is wrongly toggled and he just overheats the gun, which is very punishing. Then also very often the gunners just don't react, and there might be an enemy right next to you. The gunners are toggled, the guns are loaded, but the AI gunners just don't want to shoot, and then you get torpedoed, and then the wall hack is not working. So the entire system is highly unreliable. Funnily enough, it is also possible to abuse the gunners, giving them the right ammunition, for instance with the radio guided fuse shells, and then with the big guns they are actually able to shoot down planes much more efficiently than a player is, which is also not the way that it should be. Number 4 is actually the team composition, and there are no regularities. For instance, it is possible for one team to field nothing but destroyers on the start, and another team is just fielding patrol boats, whereas then sometimes also one team has some light cruisers, whereas the other one doesn't. I think this is down to the small player base, but it should be addressed. But it's also possible that one team just has much more players than the other team, and also that the teams by themselves are very small, and it's just not fun to have a 6 versus 6 all over again, and on big maps where there is just no action going on, and then you just get one shot, so the fun is also limited by that. Furthermore, the restriction of the amounts of spawn, at least in the realistic mode, is kind of not really helping for the testing phase. Number 3 is the damage model. The damage model is not that easy to make for a ship compared to a, well, I guess a tank, but the discrepancy within ships is amazing. So for one patrol boat, you just have to shoot at the bow section with a few shells and it will instantly explode, whereas with another ship you have to just saturate the enemy ship in very specific places over and over again, because the crew just won't die, or the sections are just very well protected or hidden, compared to a ship of the same class or a patrol boat of the same class. And if you're down then to also just high explosive shells, very often that's very punishing, because you just can't destroy the enemy. If he is bow on, you just can't blow up the ammunition storage, you just can't saturate the unsaturated sections that are protected by the already destroyed section, and even patrol boats cannot be sunk by a single shot of HE shells in the front, even if that HE shell is a 15 cm HE shell with base fuse from the German light cruiser as an example, or the radio fuse shell by the Americans. And that is just a very big problem, because somebody just can bow tank, rush you, and all the skill that you have just means nothing. And also the request for big shells to hit a patrol boat that's moving pretty fast, especially at close quarters, and then you need to hit the bridge because all the other sections are destroyed, but there is still 1% crew in the enemy ship, is just absolutely absurd. Furthermore, the damage output of torpedoes, even against a destroyer, is absolutely insane. If you cannot avoid getting hit by a torpedo, you might just maneuver in such a way that you take it to the stern or to the bow, control the flooding, and that's everything that you need to do. But if you take the torpedo center mass, you automatically even get destroyed as a light cruiser. And so there should be a bit more punishing taking a torpedo to the bow, as also it is possible to take multiple torpedoes to the bow and not receive a huge flooding. I'm not sure if this will also get, well, kind of fixed or reworked, or this is quite intentional. Number 2 is in the greater picture, the game modes. Currently it is very boring to just have a game mode that is basically capture the capture point and that's it. as then it also leads instantly to spawn camping, as I have previously mentioned. Now, where are the possibilities of implementing something like a convoy attack or a harbor fight, which we had in tests of the pre-closed beta? This is very, very important. This would bring a lot of different flavor into the game and keeps player playing. So the option to have multiple game modes or to select between the game modes would be desirable. But what is absolutely boring is to just simply capture a point and then that's it. So that then also brings us to number one. Number one, the currently biggest problem that I see for the Navy CBT in War Thunder is time, or rather the lack of time to get the immersion into a Navy battle, which Gaijin has actually managed to kind of implement for aircraft in well, RRB, and partially even for tanks in Tank RB. I think it is just a very bad game design if one ship that is not really bad in terms of speed, for instance a light cruiser, cannot get into the cap zone that is closest by to it to make a difference on the outcome of the game, despite having a lot of hits and kills on enemy ships, and for a change then a destroyer can just make the biggest difference by spawning closer to the patrol boats. So the battles are way too short. Very often there is just nothing to do for you and the teams are too small. In fact, number one is kind of the addition of all the problems that I just said, and I think Gaijin has to really try to polish it out. And we need different game modes, we need the polishing and the revisiting of substantial center game mechanics, and we need to improve them, we need to change them so that we actually reach the absolute, the ultimate goal, which is bringing fun to ships, because then they get played and then they will earn money for Gaijin. So again, my interest was in improving it, in pointing out the problems, and also bringing potential tips and tricks how to make them better. I am not really able to discuss everything that I just talked about in every single little detail, because that would literally take hours upon hours of talking about every single aspect that I could name. Those were my top 10 problems that I saw for the closed beta for the Navy section of War Thunder, and I hope that Gaijin will come around to address them. Maybe I also can bring with this video a certain different point of perspective to certain players. So what we have currently is that certain ships are extremely strong and they get spammed out, and they will actually kind of ruin the stat gathering for Gaijin, such as the German SF-40 Leichte or also the American LCS, but also the top destroyers, the premium destroyers, render currently all other destroyers obsolete. The stock grind is very, very painful and way too long. However, I see a positive thing, or I think that there is one positive part, and that this is still the closed beta, and I hope that Gaijin learns from previous experiences in RRB and especially Tank RB, that they will not repeat the problems that we had there. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and in particular, keep a civilized discussion in the comment section. So, as usual, that's it, and we will see each other on the waves of War Thunder.